All right, hey everyone, this is Joshua, lead developer on Ultimate Disc Golf. Happy to be with you tonight. I obviously wish it was under better circumstances. I know everybody's kind of on edge, and for me, kind of hopping into some work and you know, kind of going that route definitely helps me kind of clear my head and stop thinking about kind of everything going on. So hope everybody's doing well out there. Um, what we're going to be doing tonight is essentially doing some world building. We have one of the next courses kind of laid out in terms of all the foliage and everything like that, and basically going to start laying out some baskets and tees and really just kind of hanging out with you all. So if you have any questions about the game, anything like that, again, happy to answer all those. Okay, so you should be able to see our editor for the new course up on the screen here. And I basically just have the first tee set up at this point. So this one's kind of like a rugged highlands. It's definitely a little bit muddier. Not really deep water hazards, but we have some shallow water certain areas in this. I'm just going to kind of fly through real quick so you can kind of see where we're at so far. So this one's kind of like a rugged highlands. It's definitely a little bit muddier. Not really deep water hazards, but we have some shallow water. So pretty wild and rugged at this point. We haven't really put in like extra the walking paths and things like that where it might be worn down from play. But after we get the tees and baskets, we'll start doing stuff like that. So we have the first hole just kind of roughed out right now, and this is going to be a little bit longer if you played the game before than really any of the other courses that we have in the game so far. I think this first one, I'm going to go ahead and hit play here. It's about 600 feet. Yes, 608. Just going to kind of let that fly. So I'm pretty happy with that one so far. So what we need for this hole at this point is we still need to actually do a cinematic. So what we're going to do is kind of set up that fly through level sequence. So I'm pretty happy with that one so far. So what we need for this hole at this point is we still need to actually do a cinematic. So that's, we're going to create a level sequence instead of a master sequence. I'm going to name that hole 1 sequence. So I might not be talking, all the way through the stream here, but if you're kind of hanging out with us tonight, definitely feel free to kind of let us know, um, how set up are you? We hope everyone is kind of prepared for it. Sounds like everybody's going to have to hunker down, and or if you just want to keep it lighter, definitely feel free to ask us about the game. Happy to answer any of those questions again. So I might not be talking, all the way through the stream here, but if you're kind of hanging out with us tonight, definitely feel free to kind of let us know, how set up are you? Okay, first thing we want to do is add a new camera. Get this out of my way a little bit here. Let's see. It's adjusting a little fast there. Let's see. Okay, I think that's close enough for now. So the next thing we're going to do is make sure that the cinematic camera looks at the basket as we kind of take it through the fly-through. Okay. So we have it set to where no matter how we move the camera in the space of the world in the game, it will kind of track that basket for the first hole. So we've got a comment from Tim on Facebook. Appreciate that, Tim. Says, wow, it looks so good. I have to run it on bottom quality for it to work on my laptop. Yeah, we are still a little bit early. You know, we're in alpha still. We're going to do the best that we can to continue kind of setting clear benchmarks for improving the performance over time. You know, we have plans to target things like the PS5 and next generation Xbox and other consoles when they come out. So it's kind of a catch-22 for us. We want to make sure that we're ready for that down the road, but also make sure that as many people can play the game as possible while it's out on Steam and PC. It's definitely a little heavy at the moment, but if you have the rig that can handle the game right now, it definitely you know, feel like it looks pretty nice. Okay, so we need to set a keyframe for the camera location. We're going to make this about a 10-second preview. I'm kind of liking that track right now. Go with that. Okay. We'll try to bring it up a little tighter to the basket now. Okay, we'll go ahead and play that. Not totally happy with it, but it's a good start. Okay, so we'll save that. Then we have to hook in our blueprint for the T. We're going to select that new sequence that we created. So now that we've kind of connected that sequence to the T, we should be able to go ahead and press N and see our new preview. All right, I think that's looking okay for now. Might make some slight adjustments down the road, but for now we'll go ahead and I think go to the next hole. So basically I'm going to be kind of cruising around the level here and kind of, you know, trying to play course designer a little bit, and I've gotten a little bit better at this as we've been developing the game. Feel free to chime in, you know, if I'm cruising around the level here and you see kind of a unique, you know, flight path that one could take, or a good setup for a hole, definitely interested in getting everybody's feedback and see what we can do to include that into the game. So first we're going to see where the, go back to the basket here for hole 1. Okay. So the trick is to have it a little bit far away, but not impossible to find. Okay, I kind of feel like that could be an interesting hole right here. So let's just give it a shot and see how it works. Okay, so what we do is we have blueprints and kind of these reusable assets for how we set up Ultimate Disc Golf, and that makes development time a lot more reasonable, and I can really just concentrate on the course building and really making it, spending more time worrying about the gameplay and the type of throws that you're going to need to shape and keeping all that interesting, as opposed to kind of reinventing the wheel every time we want to add something into the game. Okay, so we duplicate that. Okay, so we'll have to flatten out the terrain there a little bit. Maybe move it up a little higher. Alright, let's try this. Move it back here. And not bad. Okay, so next thing we have to do when we have a new tee out is we have to paint the landscape to kind of get rid of the procedural foliage. And if you're not sure what that is, no worries. Basically it means that all the trees and grass and all that is kind of automatically populated all across the level, kind of with some set parameters rather than painting it all by hand. And what we can do is now, instead of painting all by hand, use a little bit of painting to just kind of get rid of it where we don't want it. So we're going to paint over the tee pad. Okay. Okay, we'll try to figure out a good distance here. If you're kind of just joining us, again, this is Joshua, lead developer on Ultimate Disc Golf. Glad that you could be with us tonight. We're kind of hunkered down, so we're going to be doing a lot of dev streams, I think, over the next couple weeks, hopefully making a lot of progress on the game. And hopefully there's not a lot going on out there. Definitely hope everybody spends time with family and reconnects and things like that. But we'll be here. We'll be doing some streams and building and debugging and trying to just hang out and keep our own spirits up. And if you want to hang out with us, we're happy to have you. Set that to basket number 2. Hey, Mark, glad you could join us. You're very welcome. So we have Mark from Facebook. He's been following us for quite a while, and he's been very patient with us on improving the performance. We appreciate him giving us his feedback along the way. We're happy to kind of get the community involved in how we're going about the game, our approach, and hopefully, kind of our team and myself, our passion for the sport kind of comes through along the way. Okay, so what we can do is we can just actually, what I'm doing now is I can set our character to just play right from where this editor camera is at, so we can test the hole out pretty quick. Okay, see, it's already saying 0 feet. All right. Okay. Know what we did there? Forgot to put in the tag for both the basket and the tee. Ooh, that's a monster. Almost 700 feet. So we're looking at a lot of par 4, maybe some par 5s for this course. So which should be really cool. I think it's going to up the challenge a little bit. I know some of our players and part of the community that have been playing the game for a little while have probably been playing the same courses for a bit, so we're excited to kind of get some new ones out there. Ooh, a little help. So with this new course, you can see we have a little bit of some of the post-processing settings are not playing nice with the teleport. But that's okay. We're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so same thing as last time. We're going to add another level sequence. Do I want to copy the other one? I think we'll make a new one. Take about 10 seconds again, just like we did the last one. Oh, we really appreciate that, Magnus. Magnus from Facebook, he's joined us on Facebook, says, looks great, made me log into Steam and buy the game. And we thank you so much for that, Magnus. Thank you for the support. And just remember, I know we've had some people, with the game being early, hey, they wanted to kind of wait it out, and we definitely understand that. So, hey, we're going to be very, very active, and if you kind of go back and look at our social media, we've been trying to be consistent with our posts and kind of show the progress, and we're going to continue to do that. So, hopefully, even if the game is maybe a little rough around the edges, we hope that you'll maybe keep it in your library and give us some time to continue improving that. And if you do, we really appreciate that. Okay, I'm just reading another comment from Mark on Facebook here. Okay, so one thing I want to address about your comment, Mark, a few of the things hopefully will improve as we continue to improve performance, like the mouse sensitivity for the ball player. So when you start up the game, you want to make sure that you go to the character creator, and we're still working on the males, but we have the female option in there right now. Make sure that you set the hair, and then in the presets button on the upper left hand side, make sure you save at least one preset. So the alpha version right now will use the most recent saved preset, so the last one that you created. And we're going to extend that out and make it a little more fluid, like you'd see in your typical more like AAA style game and a more polished game. So that's kind of where it's at right now, but we hopefully that'll at least get it to where you can get the hair going. Okay. So if you're just joining us, we're working on our second kind of fly-through sequence for one of the new courses in Ultimate Disc Golf. Basically, kind of setting keyframes, and we're going to kind of do a little fly-through here. Okay, we'll go a little higher than that. We're right in the weeds. Oh, 50. Sorry about that. some reason, my location is really touchy today. So I apologize for jumping around a little like that on your screens there. Okay, we'll play that through once, but it's looking pretty good. Maybe a little fast, I think. I think that's decent enough for now. Yeah. Okay, we will save that. Okay, so that's another hole created for this new course. Which is yet to be named, by the way. So, if you followed along with the game, we kind of have a, so far, kind of a two-name approach. We got Sunny Birch, Breezy Pines. So, yeah, if you got an idea for a name, would love to hear it. Feel free to throw it out there. And while you all are coming up with an awesome name, basically I'm going to look for a good tee position for hole number 3 here. So we have basically two downhill or semi-downhill holes for the first 2 holes. So I'm going to look for something a little bit different. Mark, thanks so much for all the kind words. He's given us way too many compliments on Facebook here, and we appreciate that. He did have a question. Will it have the capability to add our own custom stamps on discs? We've definitely had that question a few times, Mark. I would put it on our stretch goal list at the moment. I don't have a definitive roadmap, but we have definitely gotten enough interest that once we have some more core things worked out, I would like to definitely look at that. So, just like anything else, we'll make sure to post some more official information. If we get a little bit closer and it looks like we're going to be ready to tackle it, we'll kind of start putting out a little bit more concrete info on how it's going to work, get feedback from the community, things like that. So we have a couple directions we could pick. We could try to thread the needle through the trees. The other one I was thinking was, somewhere around here maybe gives a good opportunity to pick multiple ways to shape your shot. Maybe going around this hill. I'm just not quite sure on this one yet. It might take a second. Okay, so basically just kind of weighing all the options here from where the hole number 2 ended. Hmm. I like the idea of maybe going and throwing up to the top of that hill. I think we'll try it. I'll throw it a couple times and I'll see how it works. Right there. Okay, so again, we're going to paint the foliage to where it kind of disappears. And if we decide to move this tea, I can always repaint it right back on pretty easily. Okay. Go ahead and duplicate our basket. And we're going to move it over to the top of this hill here. Okay, so I'm not sure that I want this to be a blind shot. Might have to, excuse me, rework the landscape a little bit. We'll try once, see how it goes first. Oh, we'll get down. That's gonna be tough. Okay, I'm not waiting for that. Ooh. That was gonna keep rolling a while. Just not sure if I should bring it kind of maybe to this little ridge. But I feel like that was pretty good. Try it one more time. And one thing we can do is right now, I'm not sure that this landscape has been set up for the advanced friction and kind of bounciness physics settings that we can have for each different type of landscape terrain. So I think it might have given me some extra bounce on that. Okay, I'm going to try a stable driver this time. The forehand. I feel like this is going to go a little better. There we go. I think I'm pretty happy with that one so far. Okay, so I need to test to make sure we have the tags for kind of controlling, making sure how the code knows which basket and which tee and all that you're on. So before, you can see right here did not have the right text. So we hooked those in, and now it's showing the right distance. Okay, sorry, I just had to do a little bit of detail work there. So just like the last two, we're now going to do the next fly-through preview. All right, that's looking good. It looks like we kind of slowed down here for a second. Okay, apparently, chat, we were waiting on an autosave here, so apologies. Okay, we'll go ahead and play that. Kind of going right through that tree. Okay, we're going to stretch the last part of the animation a bit. Hopefully that'll smooth it out a little. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good so far. And again, a lot of these might be fine-tuned down the road, but just for the sake of kind of keeping the stream moving tonight, I'm going to kind of set up our basics and again, get any input from the community while I'm going along here, and just get them roughed out, and then our team might take another look or two at them as the week goes by here. When I say team, we're a pretty small team, so uh, really I have my hands in pretty much every part of the development of the game. Um, in terms of actual development time, me personally as the lead developer, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the game, or maybe a little more, was pretty much all done by me over the last 2 years. So just a couple little pieces so far. We've gotten a little help, virtually, kind of remote um, work on little animations and things like that. Um, just to kind of go off of that as well, the support for the game has just been so amazing so far. And as things progress and we continue to hopefully get support, we're definitely going to be investing in things like either renting. I don't know when we would be able to maybe purchase anything like this, but definitely renting out motion capture equipment or a studio to really get some high-end motion capture for all the throwing animations. That's definitely something that's on a roadmap. Really, up until now, we've been mostly hand-making the animations. A lot of them have been painstakingly built by me, just basically watching video and then breaking it down kind of like by the frames. So a lot of them are looking pretty good, but I think getting the motion capture in the end is going to give us the best look. Okay, so we're about 3 holes in here. So we have a couple, first 2 are kind of going downhill, third one's going uphill. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking for hole 4 we kind of throw across this gap here. Let's take a look around for a second before we commit to that. Personally, I think that's got to be it right there. So that's what we're going to go with for now. Okay. Alright, we've almost got that one in position. Looks like we have a few new people joining us. Welcome. My name is Joshua Johnson, lead developer on Ultimate Disc Golf. And excuse me, I'm going to get a drink real quick here. We know everybody's pretty much hunkering down just about everywhere at this point, so we are all set for the next couple weeks here. Pretty much at my home office at this point. We're all stocked up and ready to basically develop straight for the next couple weeks. Hey, what's up, Eros? Glad you could join us. Just getting ready to set up the basket for hole number 4 on the yet to be named new course. Okay, I definitely like the look of this hole so far. Okay, so kind of wonder what I'm doing here before I can test the new hole. I have to basically set up a few different tags to make sure that the basket and the tee kind of know which one is which in relation to each other. I think that should do it. Okay, I'm kind of curious to see how far this is. Whoops. Okay, that needs to be basket 4. Okay, 500 feet. I think that's about right. Ooh, almost in the circle. I wish I could do that in real life, A-Ross. I will take it. I definitely like the way it flies across the gully there. So, for now, it stays. Arizona on Twitch says, and slow mess putt right there. Yep, yep. I think once we get a little bit more of the core physics worked out, and we're pretty close on a lot of that, definitely would like to add a little bit more of broadcast cam type features, and maybe being able to toggle slow mo on putts and things like that. But we're getting close. I'm excited to get to start working on those features for sure. Okay, I think with that, I'm going to take about a 10-minute break here, use the restroom, maybe grab a little snack. But we're not quite done for the night. I'm going to try to get through a few more holes and hope you will join us when we come back. If not, we appreciate you being here. And again, we'll be doing this pretty much most of the week. So please, if you know somebody that's a little bit down about all the canceled events and disc golf events, let them know we're here. We're working on something disc golf related. If they're a gamer as well, hopefully something they might like. So be back shortly. Thank you. Join us when we come back. If not, we appreciate you being here. And again, we'll be doing this pretty much most of the week. So please, if you know somebody that's a little bit down about all the canceled events and disc golf events, let them know we're here. We're working on something disc golf related. If they're a gamer as well, hopefully something they might like. So be back shortly. Thank you. All right, hey everyone, we're back. Got a little drink here and refreshed and pretty much ready to go back on this level design. Uh, Appreciate you waiting if you're still here. I think we are on hole number 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, all right. Welcome back, A-Roz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right too, by the way. No Mandos yet. I have been working on the blueprints for them, though. That will essentially, if you throw it through that certain area, it'll essentially catch it. So, still working on the mechanics of how it will work in the game, in terms of where it puts you, or whether it's a penalty or whatever. Once we do have the Mandos, I pretty much know a few holes that I want them to go in, so. Should be just a matter of time before we get those in. Okay, let's see. So we've got a lot of room to work with still. So we got a comment from Magnus here. Looks like he's stuck with the teleport. So I apologize about the teleport bug there, Magnus. The teleporting was added to the game really much later, so I won't. I'll try to not to make this too long. We've been working on the game for right around 2 years or so, and in the original concepts, we did not have any type of teleport at all. It was really meant to be. We wanted to do it a little bit differently than a lot of golf games, which was have that kind of open world field. With disc golf, for me personally, a lot of why I fell in love with the sport was being able to get out and not be on kind of this artificial course, being able to get out in nature, things like that. So we wanted to bring that to the game. We got a lot of comments from some of the first videos that people were interested in being able to kind of get through the round quicker if they didn't want to run through it. So we went ahead and implemented the teleport, long story short. So that being said, it's a little buggier than some other parts of the game. I would suggest if you want to have a much more bug-free experience for right now, and we're working on fixing some of those teleport bugs for the next version, but I would really try to avoid teleporting if it's under the basket, especially. If you park one right underneath, you kind of have to run up to it, and if you get it really, really close to the pole, we actually have to come up with some other mechanism, because right now you have to kind of crouch, and right now the mechanic is you have to walk over the disc to initiate the next throw. So we're going to need something maybe kind of like an interaction, where if you look at the disc and you're close enough to it, you can then initiate the next throw or something like that. And also the same thing with the teleport. We have a few checks to add. So if you park it right under the basket, it'll teleport you, but set you right next to it. And some of that's already been tested internally. I didn't really want to do debugging and stuff like that for the stream, just to kind of keep it a little more entertaining, I guess. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have any other bugs, though, feel free to throw them in chat. Happy to answer it. If you're suspended in midair and the teleport won't work again, if you try hitting teleport again and it won't teleport, you might have to restart the game. I think that's one of the few kind of game crashing bugs that we still have right now. There's not very many, but that is one of the few. And sorry that you found that. One thing I'm going to do here is throw our Discord server into chat. We definitely make sure to post things like change logs and bug reports and all those kinds of things are on our Discord. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that one, Magnus. We are definitely aware of it though. Thank you for reporting it again and make sure that every bit of feedback always helps. So do know that we're aware of it and we will make sure to close that bug as quickly as possible. I think version 1.0.6 is going to be mainly a bug squashing release, so not many new features. Our last release had things like the new inventory system and things like that, and we definitely have to polish up some of the interaction with the inventory system, and there's some bug fixes for that, bug fixes for the teleport, some performance improvements, really a lot of under the hood stuff. So I'm excited about that release because I think it's going to bring the level of polish on the game up quite a bit. So pretty stoked. Hopefully it will be probably I think by the end of this week. So I'm going to do a couple more dev streams on things like level design, but kind of during the day I'll be kind of finishing up work on 1.0.6. I'm still not quite sure why I want to put this next hole. Go back over here. It's not quite sure how high we want to go, if we want to kind of stay in the valley here. I think this next one's pretty much made for us. Starts like kind of wide. You gotta maybe thread the needle a little bit at the end. So we don't have the, we got a question from Magnus here. Is there any way to see the flight numbers? We're finalizing the actual flight ratings. Let me go ahead and hit inventory here. So we have 9 discs in the game at the moment, and essentially what we have is a putter, mid-range, and driver, one each of a understable, stable, and overstable. And so when I say that, I would say, not slightly under or overstable. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we kind of had a base kind of at each end of the spectrum. And really the feedback on the 9 that we have so far has been pretty good. I think the flight's been pretty consistent in terms of what people have been giving us for feedback. So now that we have those 9, we're going to keep expanding that, and the next we're going to kind of go in between from that kind of very understable, very overstable to now actually having kind of the different speeds and the turn and fade and all that. So it'll be a little more nuanced in the next few versions. And so what you see on my screen here, when I hover over these, that's actually where the rating will show up here soon. As you see right now, it just says kind of like overstable putter, overstable driver. So right underneath the description for it will have the actual flight ratings. Okay, so I'm going to start on the next hole. Okay, yeah, sorry you weren't able to find that inventory system, Magnus. Glad you were able to kind of catch that from what I was showing here. I know there's a lot of things still changing in the game, so we got some things like a tutorial course. We had it planned, and it is still in work. We haven't quite finished it yet, but that will kind of help with some things like that for new players eventually. But since things are changing so much still, we haven't really wanted to finalize it too much. We got a question from Mike on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Appreciate the question. Working on the next patch update. We are behind the scenes. We've actually been working on the next release for the last couple of weeks in terms of bug squashing and things like that. As far as tonight, though, I wanted to kind of switch gears and do something a little more entertaining for the stream. And so we're actually working on level design and world building for one of the next courses that's going to be coming up in the game. A course which I did mention earlier, we have yet to name, so we're still kind of working on that. I'm thinking that's a good spot. Welcome for those of you maybe just joining us. We're just going to be working on some level design here for the dev stream tonight. Currently working on hole number 5 for our new course. We got another question from Mike here. Appreciate that. How much is the game currently on Steam? So right now the game is in early access on Steam, and for the duration of alpha and I believe most of beta, the game is going to be $10. That's it for the full game for life. So essentially, yeah, the game's not complete yet, but that's kind of how early access works. So what we will say is, one thing with the early access is they recommend you don't purchase a game that you're not excited about to play now. So we wouldn't necessarily ask people to go and buy it because we say that we're going to do something down the road with the game. Hopefully, if you've been following along, you see what we've been doing, and you can see where we plan on going. Hopefully, that gets you excited, and we appreciate the support if you do decide to get it through early access. And so with that, I'll go ahead and add that we have quite a few courses planned. We have the character creator system. Okay, we got a question here from A-Roz on Twitch. Is there any plans to make real place disc golf courses? So I can definitely speak to that. One thing I will say, actually, it's interesting. So I've been playing the kind of same home course since I started playing disc golf about 20 years ago. And it's actually the oldest disc golf course in Missouri, White Birch Park. So if you play Sunny Birch in the game, that is actually built from memory by me as a kind of a resemblance of White Birch Park. So it's kind of a pseudo real park at this point. We didn't name it White Birch. I didn't do everything exact, but if you've ever played the course before, you will definitely, notice that it's pretty similar. Yeah, I appreciate that. I definitely wanted to bring my own history with the sport into the game as much as possible, and hopefully that gives it a little bit of authenticity under the hood. I'll go ahead and kind of add one more thing to that too. So I don't know if anybody here kind of knows the Samui Swine Classic over in Thailand. That's run by the great Nigel Mills, who we've actually been speaking to kind of through social media. And, we don't have anything finalized yet, but we kind of have a, word agreement at this point to try to put his course, which is one of the most exotic that I've seen in the world, into the game down the road. So we've been really busy just building out the course stuff, so we haven't really gotten all the details finalized with him yet. So I don't want to say it's finalized or anything like that, but if everything goes well, it'll be in there eventually. Oh, hey Roz, hope you're doing well over in Finland. Appreciate you joining us from all the way over there. Says, I don't know a lot of those, I just know the big tournament courses. Yeah, no worries. White Birch, my home course it's a very old course, but it's not a big tournament course or anything like that. A lot of history there, though. Okay, so we're getting ready to test hole number 5. Ooh, that's a monster. We'll try it, though. So this will most likely be one of the kind of later courses, kind of more advanced courses once you've kind of built up your character's throw power. So anybody playing the game right now, you probably know that the throw power is pretty much set at this point, but we have a whole achievement and leveling system all set up under the hood. We just kind of want to make sure we have flight physics and some other things kind of set first before we activate that system. So at this point, I've got it set higher so I can go ahead and test this one. Appreciate that, A-Roz. For quite a while, it was definitely a passion project. So we do a lot of other things besides working on games here at Tree. But I think all the time that I personally put into this game, because I love the sport and I've been playing it so long, that it showed through when I showed it to our CEO, and then we decided to really make a go of it. So appreciate that, Mike. Mike on YouTube says, While I look forward to watching the game grow, I played a few rounds with the designer behind Disc Golf Champions, and it's so exciting to see a game make it this far. We definitely have a long way to go, but I think we've come quite a long way up to this point as well, so appreciate that. That's cool that you played a few rounds with the designer of Disc Golf Champions, so. Alright, I think we're looking at like a par 5 here. And I know I could probably teleport. I appreciate everybody's patience. Part of kind of the testing is just, it's pretty new level, pretty new course, so kind of like to get to know it, run around, and make sure I look for any little things like performance glitches, textures that might be off, anything like that. So I like to kind of take my time. Oh, way too hard. So I'm definitely noticing the disc going a little bit under the landscape. I won't go into too much technical detail here, but in a lot of newer games, they use this rendering feature called tessellation, which basically fakes different heights. And what can happen if you put it on the landscape, sometimes when you don't have the thickness of the tessellation collision thick enough, long story short, it'll look like your objects go through the ground. But it doesn't fall all the way through. It's kind of, like I said, a faked height there. So while we will need to look at that, I'm going to kind of put that on a mental note for later. On the active, so we got a question from Mike here, sorry. What's the longest hole you guys have so far? On the active courses, I think the longest one's probably, I think hole 17 on Sunny Birch is probably close to the longest. I think it's about 350, 400 feet. And then I think there's one hole on Dusty Canyon, which I think is right over 400. So those are the two longest so far, but this course here will definitely start upping the ante along with one of the other courses, which we haven't really shown too much of yet. It's going to be a water feature course. There's a lot of lakes, things like that. That's going to have a lot of par 4s and par 5s as well. As far as what we have designed, you're actually looking at the longest one right now. That was 771 feet right there. Okay, I have to go back one hole here. Forgot to add the fly-through sequence. Okay. So what we do now is start keyframing the location of the cinematic camera. Okay, almost there. Did not like that last one, sorry. So we got a question on Facebook from Magnus. Is there any way to alter the angle of the disc? So you'll notice a little disc on your UI, and when you're aiming, you can scroll the mouse wheel up and down, and you'll see that tilt. Now, it's not going to actually affect the angle of the flight yet. Okay, so just to give a little bit of background, we're a pretty small studio. You know, we're an indie game studio. So we really wanted to make sure we had a solid game plan. I've seen a lot of games that, you know, tout realistic physics and a lot of different things. I've played some of them. We really wanted to make sure that we kind of took it step by step. So that's why we kind of did, you know, free open alpha to let people kind of get their hands on the game and really just make sure that the basic mechanics could work. So why make sure or why start doing the angle if we couldn't even get the flat flight to work consistently? So that's really where we're at. We've gotten all the feedback that we need. We've added discs now that kind of add to the different type of shot shapes that you can do. And pretty much the next thing to add is that angle of release. So it's coming very soon, which I'm really excited about. I can't wait till we get that in the game for you all. We've been working on it for a while. I will say that. And was probably the most technically intensive part of the build up to this point was to make sure that, you know, depending on the angle, the throw power, to get that realistic type of flight for all those different angles, it was not easy, but I think it's going to be really satisfying once you're able to combine the angle with the type of throw power mechanics and all the different discs that we have. You really will have a limitless amount of options for throws. We appreciate your patience on that. It should be 1.0.7 is when that should be coming out. So the next release will be a lot of bug fixes, and then the next version after that will have angle release and hopefully the male character creation. A lot of it's kind of already in work under the hood, so we just want to make sure that the next one kind of is really just focused on bugs. We've already got some of the other stuff pretty much ready to go, but we want to make sure we can get some feedback on the bugs that we squashed, and then next version have some more new features. So hope that all makes sense. All right, I'm liking that one. I think we'll go ahead and save that. Yeah, Eros, multiplayer is still definitely on the roadmap. Um, we're probably looking at 1.0.9 or maybe 8 at the earliest for the multiplayer. What we've been doing behind the scenes is starting to do a lot of things. I won't get into all the technical details, but there's this thing called multicasting, which is part of Unreal Engine. So essentially what we have to do is make sure that um, basically when a player throws, what's that location of their disc, and cast that to a server, and then if it has authority, replicate that information, things like that. So we're working on things like network replication of the different components, the scoring, the tees, all those different types of things. So kind of in various states of the completion at this point, but we do have kind of an internal kind of task list that we're continuing to check off. One thing right now, if you do have a friend that's playing the game on Steam, we do have remote play together enabled on the game. It basically is supposed to allow you to essentially mimic a local multiplayer game um, through Steam. So we haven't tested it out too much yet. We've just done a little bit of testing. I'd say only a few minutes at this point, but we would definitely love to get some feedback on that and kind of what we need to do. If I think we still need to look at, like, did the characters replicate? I think right now it's going to replicate the first player instead of having kind of a set second player on that remote play. So that should make it pretty easy. So what happens is you don't even have to own the game. Only one person has to own the game on Steam to use remote play. And I thought that was an interesting feature. So we wanted to go ahead and it wasn't hard to enable, so we went ahead and enabled it. But hopefully with a little more feedback and a little more time put into it, that multiplayer feature will work as well. Okay, we're going to do the next sequence for hole 5. Okay, again, we're going to set this to about 10 seconds for the whole preview. So we're going to be doing lots of streaming. I'm trying to figure out kind of what my best way to go about this is. I'm going to probably try to take a break about probably once an hour. I'm here at home office, so I've got the fam out there as well. And hopefully, you know, that'll work out to where we can do a lot of streaming this week, and I won't get too burnt out by trying to stream for 4 or 5 hours at a time. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so hopefully we can do that, keep a good balance, and we'll have plenty of good streams this week. I appreciate you sharing the alpha link around, AROS. Definitely welcome anybody to try out the game for free through our itch page. So anybody who's maybe not aware, we're on early access on Steam, but one thing that we wanted to do is make sure that the community knew we were not going for like a quick money grab by just getting up on early access and starting to charge for the game. So we decided to kind of put it out there publicly during alpha, and I believe most of the beta, at least part of beta for sure. We're going to make sure to publish each new release on our itch page, which is basically a little indie game website that you can publish to. So the only thing with that is, you have to download the whole game with each version. It doesn't have streaming updates, but we do welcome anybody to grab it through there, give it a shot, before you maybe make a decision to purchase on Steam or anything like that. We definitely want to progress the game as quickly as possible, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So definitely, want to continue to do that. Make sure people have access to the game while it's early. So we got a comment from Magnus on Facebook. I just figured a button for Mulligan would be welcomed. Yeah, we haven't had too many comments about having the Mulligan button so far. I think maybe one or two, but I've done a little tinkering with a type of Mulligan mechanic, so it might be something we slip into release and see if it's well received. I think maybe at least for like easy mode, if you're in like single player easy mode, maybe having that mechanic, and then certain online multiplayer might be disabled by default. That's a good idea, though. Appreciate that comment, everybody. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this manually. No, that's actually not bad. Right there, I think will work. Okay, I think we'll test that one out. Little quick on the last part. I think we'll move all these keyframes over a bit, try to even them out. Okay, I think that should be pretty good. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. Liking that so far. So this will be an 18-hole course, just to make everybody aware. Let the search begin for the next hole. Okay, so we're ending there. Okay, I feel like this clearing here is kind of a natural spot for the next tee. Okay, so we want to find an angle that gives us some interesting shot choices. I feel like most of them are pretty straight on this hole so far. I feel like, need to work in some angles here is what I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking the tee goes here. And the basket is somewhere over here. Because I could almost see, you got to make a choice here. Try to thread it, or, big hyzer all the way around. Kind of, I think that's a good angle shot there. Tell you what, we're just going to go with it for now. going to go right here with the basket. At least for now. Okay, we'll give that a try. Oh no. Okay, I feel like that's a good challenge already. Just want to try to get it in there once just to make sure. Okay, much lower. This one's a pretty good challenge so far. Oh, get down. Okay, that'll work. Try forehand once, just for the heck of it. All right, take that. I think that hole's looking pretty good. kind of forces you to pick one side or the other. So I think that will work. I feel like this course should be called Foggy something. I don't know what yet, but it might even up the fog. What was that? Oh, okay, no worries there. Yeah, I like that. Up the fog value. All right. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take a little break here, and if you're still, around when I get back, I do plan on doing kind of maybe one more little session before I call it quits for the night. Might switch gears and do a little bit of work on some blueprints. I want to expand some of the things that we can do with the T blueprint in terms of being able to maybe put the sign on the other side or use a different mesh for the actual sign itself. And to do that, we have to extend some of the blueprints. And if you don't know what those are, no worries. You can just kind of follow along, and if you're interested in that kind of thing, be happy to have you be part of the process. So again, I'm going to take a little break here. Thank you again for joining us up to this point. See you in a bit. All right, we are back. Not sure how many people we got left, but gonna go for probably about another hour or so. The plan is to work on some blueprints, so we want to extend some of the functionality that we currently have, and I'll kind of show you what we have going on here. We have the T signs and the T pad are kind of one blueprint, and right now this T sign pretty much is stuck where it's at in relation to the pad itself. And what I'm going to be working on here for this next little chunk of the dev stream is extending our blueprint functionality to be able to... Hey, what's up, B-Ross? I'm glad you're still here. Appreciate it. We're going to make it to where the T sign can be moved around. Okay, I'm just checking a couple things out here. Hey, appreciate the patience there, Ross. I'm actually sharing the stream to a indie development page. And to make sure I was sharing it to the correct group here. Okay, just about ready. Okay, so we're going to open up our blueprint here. Close out the sequencer. So the goal is to add a new variable that's going to act as a vector. So x, y, z coordinates that will be in the construction script, which kind of will happen before the actual gameplay, so we can make that a public variable and essentially kind of show you here. So when we click on one of these T signs, or the whole T blueprint, I should say, we'll have, where you see my mouse cursor, we'll have a new variable that will allow us to have some sliders to adjust the relative position of the sign itself in relation to the T pad. Okay, we'll go ahead and compile the blueprint. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is get that vector. We're going to have to move the top part of the sign. So we have two parts of the sign as far as meshes are concerned. We have the sign itself, and then we have the post. And I'm actually going to do some cleanup while I'm in here. Okay. Now we've done that cleanup. What we'll want to do is set the relative location. We'll try that first anyway. I think we're probably going to need to do a little bit more, but I want to test a couple things. So we're going to make that a public variable. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit more work on this. Let's see. Oh, okay. I know what we did here. Gotta back that up a little bit. Okay, so we want to get the relative location, and then we're going to add the new one. So we have two vectors here. We're going to do vector plus a vector. And then set the relative location. Okay, so let's try and test that out a little bit. Let's see. Make sure that's a public variable. Might have to put that in the begin play event. Actually, so instance editable. Actually, we have to make sure our settings are set up right here to where we can actually adjust it from the instance. Okay, so looks like it's showing up now. So as you can see, we can now slide the slider here, and we're now moving that location of the T sign. And one thing that's going to do, and this was something I've been wanting to do for a little bit, so what we've essentially been doing is adjusting the landscape to fit where the sign was. Now it's going to be much easier to, on each particular instance of our T blueprint, we can move that sign down. Now I can see it looks like we need to make sure that our decal is moving with the sign itself. So we'll go ahead and try to fix that. Appreciate it if you're just joining us. Again, if you don't know, my name is Joshua Johnson, lead developer on Ultimate Disc Golf. So it's a early access game out right now on PC. It's available through Steam. Been doing a bit of level building tonight. Gonna kind of finish up the stream just doing some overall blueprint fixes and some things that I've been wanting to get to for a little bit. Happy to answer any questions from chat. If you have any questions about Unreal Engine in general or the game we're working on itself, happy to answer them. So we're going to parent that decal underneath the sign itself. Compile that. And now our sign and decal and the post itself should all move together. Which I'm liking that so far. It's looking good. Now instead of having to break out the landscape tool every time, we can just adjust that sign on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play and try to test it out here a little bit. Make sure that it actually keeps the positioning after we've gone into play mode. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So that honestly did not take all that long. That's the power of blueprints there for Unreal Engine for you. So with that said, I think I have time to maybe tackle one or two other little things that I've been wanting to clean up and improve for our development pipeline. All based around this T here. We're going to do a few more improvements. One of the next things on the agenda, I think we're going to tackle that next, is to be able to dynamically change the material of the T-pad itself. So as of right now, all the T's in Ultimate Disc Golf are kind of this concrete, and I would like to get some things like turf, maybe some different types of concrete to represent, maybe an older course, or maybe even, if we want to have it not show up at all. So we're going to start extending out the T-pad itself. First thing we're going to do is being able to change the material dynamically, like I said. We'll go ahead and start that process here. So we're going to create a new variable, pad material. We're going to get the pad mesh. So we got a comment, T turf pads are the best in real life, and I guess I have to admit here that I actually haven't had the chance to throw from a good turf pad yet. Pretty much all the courses around here are, most of them are pretty good. They're nice courses, but they're pretty much all concrete or like gravel on some of the not so great courses. I'm interested to throw on a off a turf pad. Okay, so we're going to grab that and we're going to set the material. And then we're going to get our reference, our new variable here for the pad material. Compile that. So one thing we'll need to do is set a default. Actually, let's go to smooth precast. Okay, so to make sure we have the right material there. Okay, so I think this is a material instance, so we're going to have to actually change this to a material instance instead of a material reference. Okay. There we go. That should do the trick. So now in each instance of our T blueprint, we can change that material for the pad itself. And so really from that point, our team could eventually have different types of like wear or weathering and things for giving some more variation to the T-pads themselves, just for that enhanced realism graphically. And it'll be a much smoother, easier process to get those set in there. So we got a comment from A-Roz on Twitch. Here in Finland, close to me, we got a nice new course at the end of 2019. There is 3 through 4 meters turf T-pads, James Conrad approved. Nice. I've seen some pictures of the courses over in Finland, and I'll tell you that some of them look absolutely gorgeous, A-Roz. So pretty jealous of some of the courses you got over there. Okay, so I'm not sure if we have a turf material loaded into the game yet, so we might take a look at that here, see if we can switch out one for turf just to see how it goes. So for this, just the sake of simplicity and for the stream here, we're going to look through some of the Megascan assets and see if we can get some turf loaded in. I think that one looks pretty decent. I'll give that one a shot. Eventually, if we're going to use the turf, we might need a little bit more of a nuanced mesh that's not quite so squared off. But for right now, we're just going to use the base mesh that we already have for the concrete ones to test it out. It's going to take a second for those to import here. Okay, so we can go ahead and try that now. I'd say overall, not bad. That's definitely going to help our overall development pipeline. It needs some little cleanup and things like that. Oh, I got a furry visitor, you all. Hey, buddy. It's my pal Roscoe. Adopted him about 3 or 4 years ago. He's gonna hang out with me, I guess, for a little bit here. What's up, dude? So Ultimate Disc Golf now has turf pads. There you go. I got a lot of blueprints and stuff open right now, so frame rate might lag just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna see what this error is about here. Okay. I don't think that was anything serious. I'm really liking that. I think let's adjust the material a little bit here so we can do to get a little bit better look. It's one of the very cool things about Unreal Engine is the ability to have instances of your materials that allow you to have different sliders and parameters rather than having to go in and hook in all these nodes over and over again to make some basic adjustments on the fly very, very easily. So I'm going to test out some of the turf here and see what kind of look we get. So to me that already looks a little bit more turf-like. Not that shiny. Bring that down just a little more, I think. So, to be honest, I think that's good for now, probably. I think that is about it for the blueprints on this tee, at least for the moment. Just go ahead and double check a couple things here. Close down some windows too, I think. Apologies, definitely getting some lag from the engine right now. No worries though. Appreciate the patience. Let's clean it up a couple things before we move on. Just kind of wanted to see if there was maybe a wooden sign I could throw in here to test something besides the metal sign. Probably would eventually have another custom model, but I'm not really gonna do that at the moment, I think. Lots of cool stuff I'm finding, but not really what we need at the moment. Feel like this could work as an approximation for a little bit here. Just give us something to switch out with our metal sign. So we'll let that import. It'll take a second. And it looks like we got a few people still, so appreciate you sticking around while we kind of just do some basic cleanup, optimization of our development pipeline here. Okay, I'm liking the look of that so far. So if you've been following along, we're kind of using this construction script to extend the ability of our developers to easily adjust the T and the type of material used for the pad, the type of material used for the sign, the location of the T sign itself. So we're going to extend that now, and what I want to be able to do is switch out the mesh for the actual sign itself. So we'll create a new variable called sign mesh. Okay, so we need to make sure that we have the default set to cube, just like we had the original mesh. Let's see, which one was it? Okay, I'm going to try one of these for now. Okay, so this probably won't work exactly how we want it off the bat, but we'll get the basics set up and then go from there. So we'll get our variable for sign mesh, link that up. Compile and save. I just want to make sure it's still kind of using the same cube. Okay, so that's looking good. So hopefully this will be the fun part and it'll all work right on the first try. Usually it doesn't go that way, but we'll see. Okay, so that should be set. Well, it disappeared, so we'll take a look and see if we need to set the positioning manually or something like that. Okay, so it's there. It looks like we have some type of scaling issue. Okay, so it looks like we're going to need to set the scale of this kind of manually. And so when we're switching out, we got to try to start to link things in more dynamically, so we'll kind of take a look at that. First thing I want to do is go back out a little bit. Okay, so let's see if we can. Okay, so one thing to note is I parented the sign with some other things underneath it, and I think adjusting the scale is also going to adjust some of those. So we have to make sure that we kind of are adjusting those things dynamically, but also individually, not overriding that, because that was kind of what was happening there. So let's try this. I think we might need to do a get here before we do that. So let's get the relative scale, and then we're going to do a vector plus vector. So that should get what the default is plus what we have now assigned through the blueprint instance. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted to test out. Looks like the child components are essentially going to scale with this setting. So we have to kind of extend it even another level from here and make sure that just the sign itself is being scaled, not the signpost. Okay, so I think I'm going to drop that from being a child component. As far as the signpost is now no longer a child of the sign itself. What that basically means is we have to add an extra step to get the relative location of the post, make sure it stays where it needs to be in relation to the sign itself. And that won't be too difficult. So we're going to get relative location just like we did for the sign. And we don't need a new vector for the variable because we already have one for the sign itself. So we're going to take this and do a vector plus vector. And go ahead and get that value that we already have. Copy paste this. I know it's a little ugly at the moment. We'll clean it up after we get it all working. Okay, make sure that's all hooked up there. Compile and save. And we will go ahead and test it out. So it looks like the post and the sign are positioned correctly. We should now also be able to scale the sign mesh as well. So we'll go ahead and try that. Looks like that's working. Ridiculous, but working. Put that back. Okay, so the whole point of this was to be able to actually switch out the mesh for a different type of sign, since you go to different courses around. They're not always going to be the same, kind of square metal sign there. We had to do something at first, but we've always planned on extending that, make it a little more varied and realistic. So we're well on our way to that now. Okay, so a couple of things to note, and that we're going to have to add. So we're going to need to add the relative rotation of the sign, and that'll be pretty easy. And then we also need to be able to set the material of the sign itself, because it's still defaulting to what we had before, which was the metal. Okay, so we're going to create a new variable called sign material. And we want to make this a material instance. Okay, so we already have the sign variable. We're already getting the value of sign, so we'll make sure we hook it in over here. So we're going to get that sign material variable. We're going to drag out from our sign reference. So A-Roz is going to sleep now. No worries, man. We appreciate you joining us. I got a little bit left in me, but not too much. So appreciate you hanging out for most of the stream, and have a good night. Okay, so let's maybe test out switch on the material. We'll go back to making this a cube. So that's not the right kind of material, but that does work. So we also need to be able to set the rotation of the sign. Create a new variable called sign rotation. Make that editable, and we're going to make this a rotator. Next we will get relative rotation. I think we need to break these out. Okay, so we just had to break out the different rotations real quick, plug those in. Starting to get a little crowded here. All right, there we go. Okay, so we don't see anything off on our sign here, so I think that was a pretty good first pass. And we'll go ahead and try it. There we go. So now in the future, our pipeline includes, being able to switch out a lot of this stuff on the fly, so we can really focus more on things like level design, more of the side missions and achievements, and not spend extra time, trying to do a lot of these things manually down the road. Okay, so we should have just about all the pieces of the puzzle together to uh, set up a new mesh and kind of see a different sign. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, it looks like we're going to have some work on the text to do as well, but we're not going to worry about that yet. All right, nice. Now we have a nice wooden sign. Thicken that up a bit. So one thing I think we might need is to be able to move the sign's relative location as opposed to the signpost itself. But I don't think we're going to worry about that quite yet. I just want to kind of see how it looks when we play it. Again, I'm not worried about the decal there at the moment. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's looking pretty good. Let's move the sign around a little bit, just kind of play with some different settings. That definitely makes it nice and smooth. Pretty simple. Ooh, a little laggy. So it looks like we'll need to extend the decal functionality itself if we're going to be able to dynamically rotate the sign in relation to the post. I don't think we're going to be able to have the decal as a child component. We'll just have to make sure that it's grabbing the same variables like we had already set with making sure that the sign and the post are in the same location. We'll have to do the same thing with the decal, it looks like. probably the other text as well. But it's going to make it a lot more flexible in the long run if we do it that way. Okay, so compile and save, and when I adjust these settings again, okay, now we can see our text and our decals is pretty much all locked in that position for now until we get the rest of the nodes hooked up. Okay, so now we can mess around with this without having the crazy decals all over the place. Well, looks like we had a few people from the indie games group join us. Hope maybe you found some of the blueprint stuff we were working on useful. We're definitely going to be doing more dev streams and trying to make sure we post those around communities where, beginning game developers might want to check out what we're doing, if they can pick something up. I know a lot of people are going to be kind of hunkered down and looking for things to do. So if you're interested in anything along those lines, we're going to be doing a lot of blueprint work and a lot of level building this week, and then some debugging behind the scenes. That will about wrap up the stream for tonight. Thank you all again for the support. Be safe. Help out those that you can. Be kind with everything going on. It's definitely very important. So thank you again all. Good night.